Good day. Thank you for joining this webinar. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to go over how to generate group genius by transforming your meetings from boring to brilliant. This webinar is for you if you facilitate meetings, if your workforce is hybrid or remote or in person, if you seek a more inclusive organization, and if your team is burnt out and or turning over. Doesn't matter if you have a shoestring budget and no time. In this webinar, you're going to learn some common meeting mistakes that organizations are making, easy to implement practices to boost engagement, fun to implement participatory processes that foster inclusion and alignment, and how to use meetings as levers to evolve your culture. If we haven't met yet, I'm Daniel Weinsweg. I help nonprofits become more creative, connective, and high-performing. I've got over 10 years supporting regional, national, and international nonprofits and social enterprises, startups, and legacy institutions, deep experience in multicultural settings and fast-paced environments. I'm the author of this book, Generating Group Genius, Co-Creating Cultures of Creativity, Trust, and Performance. I'm a certified yoga and breath coach, but most importantly, I'm passionate about supporting individuals creatively connect with themselves, each other, in the pursuit of advancing social betterment in their communities. The two biggest mistakes I see leaders making in the nonprofit space when trying to engage and include staff are, number one, relying on normative processes to drive results in non-normative times. So a normative process is like Robert's Rule of Orders, sitting around a table, having meetings and workshops that are purely based on dialogue, one-way conversations. We call those monologues, not conversations. So you might be doing this because, one, it's socially acceptable. It's what a lot of us expect when we walk into these meeting spaces. Two, it's how things are done at the organization. It's the culture. And maybe you haven't experienced more exciting and better ways of conducting business. The consequences of doing this are a continued disengagement and burnout, more groupthink, the perpetuation of toxic power dynamics, low accountability, stalled ability to innovate, and wasted resources, time, money, and energy. Now, the second mistake I see leaders the world over making are by having an agenda, not letting their stakeholders, their key stakeholders, drive that agenda. Again, you might be doing this because tradition, that's the way it's always been done, or you don't want to lose control of the meetings. Maybe you think you don't have time, that you need to cover these 3 bullet points and there's time for nothing more. It's socially acceptable in your context for the person with the most positional power to be leading the meetings and setting the agenda. And again, maybe you haven't experienced more exciting, more engaging, better ways. The problem is, if we continue to do this, we're going to have even more burnout and disengagement. We're going to have even more groupthink. We're going to impede the growth and development of our staff so they become dependent on the existing hierarchy, the existing structure and power dynamics. And by doing so, we're perpetuating the existing power dynamics, which are fostering a culture where there's low accountability because we're looking to the person with the most positional power. And finally, we're hindering innovation. It's not your fault that your team isn't more inclusive, engaged, and effective. We live in weird society, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, and these types of societies incentivize and celebrate consumption, not participation. It is our job as leaders and the builders of the future to change that. So I'm going to share with you right now 3 secrets to leading inclusive, engaging, and impactful meetings. Are you ready? These are the 3 pillars. 1, we must set the tone. 2, we need to invite participation early on. And 3, we lead from the back. Together, these 3 steps are going to help you foster a more inclusive, engaged, and impactful team and organization. But it's important that you follow all these steps. This isn't an a la carte menu. This is a process to develop collaborative cultures in effective teams. Step number 1, setting the tone. You as a leader defining the experience you want your participants to have. Think emotional, think tactical, think relational, and then building towards that. A few ways we can do this is sharing the agendas that we have for our meetings, our workshops, well in advance of the experience. Ensuring that all agendas at the very top have clear objectives. So everyone who's coming to that setting knows what they're doing and knows how the process is flowing to achieve that objective. Points 3 and 4 might seem like they're out of left field, but let me explain. Playing music during the transition time helps set the tone. It helps get us in rapport and in coherence with one another by literally syncing our heartbeats up. There's a deep science behind this. The Heart Math Institute has been forwarding amazing research for the last few decades around this. But by playing music in our shared settings, we help one another get in rapport, which creates safety in our mental and emotional bodies, which enables more creativity, authenticity, and connection. Which leads me to the 4th point, connection before content. Before you jump into the crux of the meeting, we need to make time to connect as individuals. So when we're participating in the meetings, we're contributing as our full-bodied beings, bringing our brilliance to the table and not operating from these rigid roles that we are occupying through our titles and our spot on the organizational chart. We need to connect with ourselves and one another before we're ready for the content. All right, step 2, inviting participation. What it looks like is the use of symbols, images, movements, and different non-normative ways for individuals to express their ideas. The workplace is more diverse than ever across every vector of diversity: age, race, religion, gender, ability, neurology, trauma load. Shout out to Kalia Mussadar for introducing that vector of diversity to me. Thank you. Participatory processes are supporting groups effectively communicate by inviting contribution in ways that work for different learning types and expressing types. So by using non-dialogic tools such as Jamboard, Miro, polls, and chats, we can solicit information and input rapidly and begin to get deeper understanding, deeper engagement through use of processes that aren't just the one person talking or the 2 highest paid people in the room talking. If we are to have group conversations and we want them to be meaningful, we need to keep them small. We have small group conversations where we can go deep, and then we can scale to larger conversations where we can be bolder in those larger, broader contexts. But help your individuals connect with themselves, share their truths, and build trust by keeping conversations at the smaller level. Think 3 to 4 people in any given conversation. Step 3, leading from the back. You hired knowledgeable staff, so let them flex their muscles. Leaders are those who are supporting their teams effectively coordinate and communicate. Research shows us time and time again that the more interactions individuals have on any given team with one another, the more high-performing the overall team becomes. So a few ways we can do this in the context of meeting is by having each agenda item owned by a different person on the team. Invite participants to play active roles in the meeting. If it's not leading an agenda item or presenting information, maybe it's keeping time, being the energy monitor of the room, being the note taker, the facilitator of an icebreaker, the closing commenter. There's a lot of creative ways that's aligned with your organization's culture that you can invite participation in the meeting that doesn't look like the facilitator or the presenter. And finally, follow emergent energy. Those bird walks, those tangents that come up in meetings, sometimes they're just that, bird walks and tangents, little distractions. Other times, they're rich sources of information and innovation. When there's emergent energy and the group is wanting to go in a direction, you've convened them. Let them have that time. Follow the emergent energy. Because if you're not following it, that energy is latent. it is wasted. It is wanting to go in a direction, and by following your own agenda, you're ensuring that everyone else in the room is still thinking and feeling about that bird walk that they went on, that they're passionate about, and they're not following you. If you take one thing away from this webinar, I want it to be that you can use your meetings as opportunities to evolve your organization culture. Meetings are rituals. They inform the collective what is important, what is rewarded, what is celebrated, and what is mission critical. Use your meetings intentionally, build them as rituals to help evolve your organizational culture. I would love to help do this with you and your team. My goal through the work that I do with my clients is to support them in becoming more inclusive teams, more engaging workplaces, and more effective organizations. You might ask, what is the investment? It's small, but the returns are large. The investment in working with me is an investment in employee retention, employee wellness, employee satisfaction, your organization's creative capacity, an investment in your leadership development, an investment in process improvement, and an investment in staff alignment. I love connecting with passionate leaders and social entrepreneurs. So if you heard anything in this presentation that sparked your interest, let's meet. Provide my Calendly here. There's an email you can reach out to me, or if you simply want to learn more, check out my website. I look forward to connecting with you soon. And before I go, let me leave you with some context from previous clients. It's my friend and colleague, Satanya Fair. I've had the pleasure of working with for nearly a decade now. A few years back, I had the honor of supporting Kaiser Permanente combined 3 crucial departments into one. And there was a lot of team realignment that was needed and a lot of leadership cohesion that I had the pleasure of supporting. One of the managers on that team provided this statement. And finally, the client that I have had the longest tenure of serving, Sarah Davis. I have worked with her at a number of organizations and contexts. This is a snapshot of the organizations that I have worked with and the types of organizations that I love to work with. Social-minded, mission-driven organizations that are helping build a better future. Thank you for your time and your consideration, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.